Now, most of the time on this podcast, I've talked about how my phone can be a distraction to being present with God in prayer or being present with the people or priorities in my life. But recently, I've been thinking about how the phone can also be a powerful tool to aid us in prayer when we set the right limits on it or use it correctly. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to share 7 ways your phone can help you pray. I use or have used everything I'm going to recommend today. Although I do try to keep variety in my prayer rhythm, so I don't use all of these every day or all the time. And just so you know, none of the apps or tools that I recommend are paying me or asking me to do this. These are all just tools and resources that I love. Now, since we're talking about prayer today, I want to make sure you've gotten this gift that I have for you. It's a free PDF prayer guide that I put together specifically to help you in making major life decisions. It's called Discover God's Dream for Your Life, and it has 10 questions to help you discern where God is leading and how to take the next step. And these are all questions that I use in my own process of discerning God's guidance. And you can get yours for free at wadejoy.com/10 questions, or in the pinned comment on YouTube, or in the show notes of the podcast. All right, let's get to it. Let's look at 7 ways your phone can help you pray. And the link for all of these will be in the video description and show notes. Number 1, Lectio 365. If you have listened to this podcast at all, you have probably heard me talk about this prayer app. I was first introduced to it when I was looking to revitalize my time with God in the summer of 2020. And I was just getting introduced to things like silent prayer and really learning to embrace praying through scripture. And Lectio 365 provides daily guided prayer and meditation that incorporates moments of silence or elements of Lectio Divina, which is an ancient practice of prayerful reading of scripture. So each day you can pick a morning option and an evening option. I use the morning option almost daily, and I go through seasons of using the evening prayer of Examine through the app. But what I love about the morning prayer is how you always start with praising God through a psalm. Then you move to meditate on and pray through a larger passage of scripture. You're then guided through prayer prompts that focus you on both your own heart and then outward towards people and situations in your community and world. You're then given times of silence in between each prayer prompt to hear what God is saying, or to really recognize what is actually in your heart that you need to bring to God. So Lectio helps me get outside of my own world and intercede for people I know and people groups I don't know. It helps me pray about world affairs in a way that I'm prone to forget due to my tendency to just focus on what affects me. That's what I love about it. It gets me out of my own world. You can also use it with music and someone reading it, or just turn off the audio and go at your own pace, which leads me to the next tip. Number 2, William Augusto. Yes, that's a person, but he's a musician. And I was first introduced to the music of William Augusto by my friend, Larry Hubaka, who's been on the podcast before. And he used this instrumental music to play during a group listening time of prayer that we did on a ski trip. And William Augusto, ever since, has been a staple part of my morning prayer. He has a series of instrumental worship songs with no lyrics, which I guess is why they're called instrumental. But they're part of a collection he has called Soaking in His Presence. And they're designed to help you enter into a deeper place of prayer and intimacy with God. And they're extremely soothing and peaceful. And they do wonders to get my heart and my mind in the right place. I use this music most often, like I said, in my morning prayer, but I'll even listen to it throughout the day sometimes when I need to recenter myself. And also I use it with Lectio. I'll turn the audio off of Lectio so I can go at my own pace. And then I turn on one of the William Augusto songs, many of which are an hour long. And I let that help put my mind and heart in a posture of calm and receiving from God. All right, number 3, there's YouVersion guided prayer. Now, I know many of you are familiar with YouVersion because it's a popular Bible app for your phone. Even though I like using a physical Bible in the morning, the rest of the day, I'm in YouVersion. And apparently I'm not alone, because I read that in 2022, that app was opened 5.5 billion times, which is amazing. And within YouVersion, there's not only a verse of the day devotional, which I've had the honor of sharing before, but there's also a feature, and this is what I really wanted to highlight, and it's the guided prayer feature. You can get this on the home screen when you open up YouVersion. And the guided prayer includes written prayers, scripture passages, and prompts for reflection and response. So if you don't know what to pray for and you're already using YouVersion in the morning and don't want to go to another app to guide you, this is a great feature. The app also includes features for tracking your prayer requests and for sharing prayer requests with others. So that might be an aspect of YouVersion you didn't know was available to you. All right, here's my fourth recommendation, and that is the Inner Room Prayer app. Now, the Inner Room Prayer app is a new app from 24/7 Prayer. That's the ministry that produces Lectio 365. And the name is inspired by Matthew chapter 6, verse 6, where Jesus says, when you pray, go into your inner room. I've actually just started using this app, and I love it. It has some very unique and helpful features. The app is meant to turn your phone into a prayer room, and it does this by helping you create your own visual prayer board, because my handwriting is so bad that when I try to go back to my journal and reread my prayer list, most of the time I can't read them. So this is awesome for me. But you can add people and situations to your visual prayer board. You can either write it out, you can put pictures, whatever you want to do. Like I said, you can personalize it, and it helps guide your prayers each day. You can also use Inner Room suggested categories to be challenged to pray in new areas for your friends, your church, your country. It's also pretty awesome how you can group your prayers together in prayer playlists, and you can organize those by a theme, a time, a week, and then you just simply choose how long you'd like to pray for, and then Inner Room will visually or audibly guide you through your prayer time. Or there's a quick pray option where you can say, I just want to pray for 3 minutes, and it brings up 3 random items from your prayer board to pray for. So if you just have a moment in your day and you're like, I want to pray, it takes the guesswork out of it for you and brings to mind things that you've already committed to pray about. This is also pretty cool. You can also receive prayer alerts about world events and then add them to your prayer board as well. So that's the Inner Room Prayer app. All right, number 5 is super basic, but it's really important. It's the calendar app. So for me, that's iCal, but I don't know what app you use, but I'm sure the functionality is very similar. And it seems simple, but I've found that what I put on my calendar happens. I build my day around what is in my calendar. So if prayer is important to you and you want to be in a prayer rhythm, praying morning, midday, and evening, then put those appointments in your calendar. Even if you're just blocking 15 minutes and you're making an appointment with yourself to pray for 15 minutes. And that could mean 5 minutes of prayer with a 5-minute buffer before and after. Because if you don't schedule your priorities, they usually don't happen. This doesn't mean you don't also pray spontaneously, though. I've talked about how pray like you eat. I have 3 meals a day, but I also snack during the day. And so I get my main meals in, but I still work in snacks. And it's the same way with prayer. You can build your scheduled times of prayer, but you still are in a conversation with God throughout the day. But I found when I'm committed to those scheduled times of prayer, I'm more prone to pray spontaneously as well. So schedule your key times, your important times of prayer, and order your life around that. Now, one other really creative way to use your calendar is to make a specific calendar that documents answered prayers and major moments where God has worked in your life. That way, when that day comes around next year, you're reminded to thank God for his faithfulness in your life. And I got this idea from Stephen Webb, who's also been on the podcast. And he has a calendar called something like This Day in Sweb History. And that just reminds him, on that same day every year, look what God did. Look where God has brought me from. Look at the faithfulness of God in my life. So it's a great way to prevent forgetfulness in your life. And gratitude is a key part of growing spiritually. So that's one way your calendar app can help you be more grateful. Now, as a bonus, you can do something similar with the Time Hop app that reminds you what you posted on this day in the past once again, to help you remember. So remembering is a key part of prayer, and the calendar app can help you do that. All right, number 6, the voice memo. Now, you've heard us talk about the power of the voice memo on earlier episodes of the podcast with Lee McDermott, Stephen Webb again. And I recommend those episodes if you're new to the podcast. But the voice memo can be a powerful tool of intercession for others. Because I found that when I'm doing a prayer walk and feel led to pray for someone, one of the best practices is to, in the moment, send someone a voice memo and let them know that you're praying for them and what you're praying for them, or you just pray over them on the voice memo. And you can even send them a text saying, hey, this voice memo isn't urgent. Listen to it when you can. I was praying for you. You can even set a calendar reminder to pray for people at a certain time of day. And then you go to Inner Room and you look at your prayer board and send a few voice memo prayers out to people. So all these can work together in a really cool way. So don't underestimate the power of the voice memo to encourage others and to remind you to pray for others. And then finally, the last app I want to recommend is the Pause app by John Eldredge. Now, the Pause app by John Eldredge is one that I've used, but my wife has used even more. And this app gives you prompts for when you want to have a 1, 3, or 5 minute pause throughout the day. So whenever you have a break, you can use this app to help you center yourself on God, center yourself on Scripture, and just remind yourself who is in control of your day. And it's not you, by the way. So whenever you get a moment in the car or on the subway or in the office, just open it up as it guides you to slow down and just pray through Scripture. The app is designed around a simple prayer that I learned from John Eldredge in his book, Get Your Life Back, which I recommend that book as well. And that prayer is simply this: I give everyone and everything to you, God. That is like I said, a simple sentence, but it's a powerful prayer, an honest prayer to God. I give everyone and everything to you, God. I pray that prayer almost daily. And this app incorporates that prayer too in the moments where you choose to pause. And so it can just create a sense of calm and peace in the midst of a busy day. And who doesn't need that? It even has some topics you can pray around, like guidance, healing, learning benevolent detachment. So there's some great stuff in that app, the Pause app. All right, let me recap all 7 of these one more time. There's Lectio 365, the music of William Augusto, YouVersion and the guided prayer section of that. There's Inner Room, your calendar app, using your voice memos to encourage and pray for people, and the Pause app. And the links to all of these will be in the description and the show notes. And I'd love to hear in the comments if you use any of these already, or if there are any that you just tried and you're really loving, or maybe there's something I didn't mention that you love that I can learn from, because I'm always looking for new tools to help me pray and to build my life and order my life around prayer. And I pray that this episode will help you do the same. So thanks everyone who likes and subscribes. I'll see you back here next week for Dreamers and Disciples.